There was a man who spent every single day at a crowded train station in Chicago. People rushed past him without making eye contact. Some dropped a coin, but most didn't. To them, he was invisible, just another face they had learned to ignore. But what no one knew was, he wasn't always like this. There was a time when he had dreams, plans, and a future he believed in. But slowly, life pushed him down. Bad decisions, missed chances, and constant failures shaped his reality. Over time, he stopped trying, and eventually, he accepted a simple belief: this is all I am. One morning, during the usual noise of trains and busy commuters, he noticed someone different. A tall man in a clean suit, walking with confidence and purpose. The kind of person who looked like he knew exactly where he was going in life. So the man gathered a little courage and said, "Sir, can you spare some change?" The businessman stopped. He looked at him carefully, not with pity, but with curiosity. Then he asked something unexpected. "Tell me something. Do you ever give anything to anyone?" The question caught him off guard. "Give? I barely survive. I have nothing to give," he replied. The businessman nodded slowly, as if he expected that answer. Then he said something that would stay in his mind forever. "If you don't give, why do you expect to receive?" And without saying another word, he walked away. Those words didn't leave him. All day and all night, they echoed in his mind. For the first time, he started questioning himself. Maybe the problem isn't what I don't have. Maybe it's what I don't do. But the question still remained. What could he possibly give? For the next 2 days, he kept thinking, searching and observing everything around him. Then on the third morning, something small caught his attention. Near the edge of the station, growing through a crack in the concrete, was a tiny flower. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't expensive, but it was something real. And in that moment, he had an idea. That day, when someone gave him $1, instead of just saying thank you, he handed them that small flower. At first, people were surprised. They didn't expect anything in return. But then something changed. They smiled. Some of them paused for a moment. Some said thank you, and a few even came back the next day just to see him again. Slowly, things began to shift. More people started noticing him. More people stopped, and more people gave. Not because he asked differently, but because he offered something meaningful. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. He stopped seeing himself as someone who begged. Now he saw himself as someone who created value. With the little money he earned, he started buying flowers instead of picking them. Then he bought more flowers. Then, better ones. Little by little, his mindset changed, and so did his life. Until one day, he wasn't sitting on the ground anymore. He was standing behind a small table, selling flowers. 6 months later, that same businessman returned to the station. But the man he remembered was no longer there. Instead, right outside the entrance, there was a small flower stand. It was clean, organized, and surprisingly busy. And behind it stood a confident man, greeting customers with a calm smile. The businessman walked closer, looked carefully, and suddenly realized it was him. The man smiled and said, "You probably don't remember me." The businessman looked again, then smiled. "I do remember you. You told me something I could never forget," the man said softly. "You said if I don't give, I shouldn't expect to receive." He took a breath and looked around at his small business. And that day, I realized something important. I wasn't broke. I was just not giving. He looked back at the businessman and said, "Now I don't beg anymore. I build something of my own." The businessman smiled, because he knew the truth. The man didn't just change his situation. He changed the way he saw himself. And that changed everything. Your life doesn't change when your circumstances change. It changes when your mindset changes. When you stop focusing on what you lack and start using what you already have, even if it feels small. Because sometimes, one simple idea, one small action, can completely change the direction of your life.